AITA for refusing to babysit my sister's kids after she called me basically unemployed in front of our entire family. I'm 28F, and I work as a freelance graphic designer. I've been doing it for 5 years, and I make a solid income. I have a few regular clients, and while my schedule can vary, I'm comfortable financially and happy with my work-life balance. My sister, 34F, has 2 kids, 7 and 4, and works a more traditional 9 to 5 job. She and her husband both have demanding careers, so they rely heavily on family for childcare. For the last 2 years, I've helped them out pretty frequently. I pick the kids up from daycare when they have late meetings, I watch them on some weekends, and I've even stayed overnight when they had to travel. I've never asked for money because I love my niece and nephew, and I know childcare is expensive. But recently, my sister's attitude has started to bother me. The tension started a few months ago when she made a comment about how nice it must be to have so much free time. I laughed it off, but I explained that freelancing isn't just sitting around. I have deadlines, revisions, and client calls at random hours. She brushed it off and said, "Yeah, but you can always move stuff around. That's not a real schedule." Fast forward to 2 weeks ago, our mom had a birthday dinner at a nice restaurant. It was me, my sister, her husband, our parents, and my brother. Everything was going great until the topic of work came up. My dad asked how business was going for me, and I said it's been good, that I just landed a big contract with a marketing firm. My sister snorted and said, "Big contract? Come on, you basically do art projects from your couch. Let's not act like you're grinding 9 to 5 like the rest of us." Everyone kind of laughed awkwardly. I tried to play it off, but it stung. My mom said, "Well, she's done really well for herself." And my sister just said, "Sure, but it's not exactly stable, is it? That's why she's always available to babysit." It was humiliating. I said, "Actually, I'm available because I make time for your kids, not because I'm unemployed." My sister rolled her eyes and said, "Relax, it's a joke." The rest of dinner was tense, and I barely spoke to her after that. A few days later, she texted me asking if I could watch the kids next Saturday, because her usual sitter canceled. I told her no, I was busy. She said, "You're never busy on weekends." I responded, "I am this weekend, and also, I think you should find another solution for the future because I'm not comfortable helping anymore." She called me immediately, saying I was being ridiculous and that I was punishing her kids for an innocent joke. I told her it wasn't innocent to belittle me in front of our entire family, and I didn't appreciate being treated like free childcare just because I don't work in a traditional office. She said I was overreacting, that she was stressed that night, and just said it without thinking, and that it's unfair to cut her off over one comment. Then her mom got involved. She called to say that while she understood my feelings, she thought I was taking things too far. "Your sister depends on you," she said. "Those kids adore you. You don't want to cause a big family rift over something said in the heat of the moment." I told her I wasn't trying to cause a rift, but I'm tired of being disrespected. My dad, on the other hand, said he doesn't blame me at all. He told me he's seen how much I've done for her, that she takes me for granted. Since then, my sister has been passive-aggressively posting stuff on social media like, family should help family, not hold grudges, and some people love to play victim when they're called out. I haven't responded, but a few relatives have reached out asking if we're fighting. One cousin even told me she thought I was lucky I had time to babysit at all, which made me realize how much my sister has shaped people's perception of me. It's been about 2 weeks since the dinner, and she still hasn't apologized. Instead, she texted me yesterday, saying she hoped I'd come to my senses because she and her husband have a work conference next month and really need me to watch the kids for 3 days. I replied that I won't be available. She said, "You're seriously doing this to the kids?" And I said, "No, I'm doing this because I deserve respect." Now my mom is upset again, saying I'm being cold and making things worse. My dad told her to stay out of it, but it's become a whole thing. I don't hate my sister, and I miss my niece and nephew, but every time I think about agreeing to help, I just remember that dinner and how small she made me feel. Some friends think I should just let it go and set clearer boundaries, maybe ask for pay next time. Others think standing my ground is the only way she'll ever take me seriously. The problem is, now I feel guilty because the kids are caught in the middle. They didn't do anything wrong, and I know my sister will spin the story however she wants when they ask why I'm not around. Part of me wants to call her and just talk it out, but another part of me feels like she's not sorry. She just wants her free babysitter back. If I cave, it'll teach her that she can treat me however she wants, and I'll still show up. I love my family, but I'm tired of being the one expected to keep the peace when I didn't start the conflict. So now I'm sitting here wondering if I took this too far. Was I wrong to draw a hard line and stop helping after one bad comment? Or is it fair to demand some respect before continuing to be part of their support system? Because right now, it feels like the only time my sister values me is when I'm useful to her, and that's not the kind of relationship I want anymore. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. AITA for refusing to host my sister's wedding after she disrespected my family and tried to control every detail. This whole situation has completely torn my family apart, and I'm honestly still trying to figure out if I'm the asshole here or not. I, 32F, have a younger sister, Sarah, 29F, who's been engaged to her fiancé, Mark, 30M, for about a year now. Growing up, Sarah and I were close, but as we got older, we started to drift apart because of our very different personalities. I'm a more laid-back, family-oriented type, while Sarah is more controlling and has always had a bit of a diva streak. Our parents, 60s, are pretty neutral and try to keep the peace, but this wedding drama has really pushed everyone to their limits. About 2 months ago, Sarah came to me with a request. She wanted to host her wedding reception at my house. I live in a decent-sized home in a quiet neighborhood and have a big backyard that would be perfect for an outdoor wedding. I was initially surprised, but also kind of excited to help. I love my sister, and I thought this could be a great way to reconnect and make her special day memorable. At first, I agreed right away, imagining a simple, fun backyard wedding with family and friends. But then the problems started almost immediately. Sarah suddenly got extremely involved in every little detail, micromanaging things to an insane degree. She wanted me to change my furniture, clear out rooms, repaint walls, and even rearrange the landscaping to fit her vision. I was more than happy to tidy up and do some cleaning, but repainting the entire living room or taking down my personal decorations felt over the top. I told her I wasn't comfortable with some of those requests and suggested she tone it down, but she got upset and said, "If you're going to host, you have to let me do it my way. It's my big day, and this is non-negotiable." That rubbed me the wrong way because I wasn't just offering my space, it's my home. I told her that while I want her to have a great wedding, it's still my house, and I expect my boundaries to be respected. The tension escalated when she insisted that I replace all the food and drink with what she wanted. She has very particular tastes and didn't want any of the comfort food I usually serve at family gatherings. She hired a caterer, but also demanded that I buy a bunch of expensive, fancy drinks for her guests, some of which I can't even stand. I told her I'm happy to accommodate some of her preferences, but I'm not footing the entire bill for a wedding that she and Mark should be paying for themselves. It all came to a head last week when she called me out in front of our parents during a dinner, accusing me of not supporting her and not being the sister she hoped for. Our parents tried to calm things down, but Sarah stormed out, saying she was going to find a different venue. Since then, she's been messaging me nonstop, demanding I change my mind and threatening not to invite me to the wedding at all. I told her she could hold her wedding wherever she wants, but I'm not going to host it if she's going to treat me and my home like a hotel. I'm honestly exhausted by the whole thing and feel hurt that my sister can't see how unreasonable she's being. My parents think I'm being too stubborn and that I should just put up with the request for the sake of family harmony. A few friends have told me I'm in the right for setting boundaries, but others think I'm overreacting and should just make my sister happy. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to host my sister's wedding after she disrespected my home and tried to control every detail. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after finding out she invited my ex-fiancé without telling me. This is a long one, so bear with me. I, 28F, have been engaged twice, but only once in my life did I actually get to the wedding planning stage. My ex-fiancé, whom I will call Jake, 30M, and I were together for 4 years, got engaged, and were deeply serious about our future. We started planning our wedding about a year ago, and were super excited. Then, things took a turn. Backstory, Jake and I met in college, and our relationship was mostly smooth, but we hit a rough patch in the last year before the engagement. He was working a lot, and I was finishing up grad school, so stress was high. Despite that, we got engaged, set a date, and started booking vendors. We were pretty traditional about the wedding, family, close friends, the works. Fast forward to 6 months before the wedding, I started noticing Jake was distant. He was less communicative, sometimes avoiding conversations about our future. I confronted him several times, and he always brushed it off, saying work was crazy or I was stressing too much. Then one day, he came clean that he'd been having doubts for months and wanted to call off the wedding. It crushed me. I begged him to reconsider, but he was firm. We mutually ended the engagement, and I was devastated. I canceled everything related to the wedding, but the emotional scars stayed with me for months. I blocked him on all social media and avoided mutual friends for a while. Now, here's where it gets complicated. My sister, Emily, 32F, is 4 years older than me. We've always had a complicated relationship. Growing up, she was the golden child, always getting praise for being the perfect daughter, the star student, and later, the ideal wife and mother. I was the troubled one, the one who couldn't live up to the family's expectations. Despite that, I love her dearly, and we've always stayed in touch. Emily got engaged last year too, but her wedding is scheduled for next summer, about 6 months after my canceled date. When she announced her engagement, I was genuinely happy for her. We shared some excitement, and even talked about helping each other with wedding planning, as our original dates were close. Last week, I was chatting with a cousin at a family gathering when I overheard something shocking. My cousin mentioned to someone else that Jake was going to be attending Emily's wedding. My heart stopped. I had no idea he was even invited, let alone planning to show up. I confronted Emily that same evening. I asked her point blank if she invited Jake to her wedding. She admitted she did, saying she thought it would be mature to include him since he was still family adjacent and it would keep the peace. I was floored. She said she didn't tell me because she didn't want to upset me and thought it was better I didn't know until the wedding. I told her that was unacceptable. Jake had broken my heart, and seeing him at a family event, especially one as important as her wedding, would be unbearable. Emily said I was overreacting and that I should get over the past, that Jake and I were no longer together, and that it was her day, not mine. I told her I wouldn't attend if Jake was going to be there. She insisted he wasn't going to be a problem and accused me of being petty and immature. I told her it's her choice to invite whoever she wants, but it's also my choice to not go. Since then, family members have been reaching out to me, telling me I'm being unreasonable, that I should forgive and forget, and that Emily is trying to do the right thing by keeping peace. Some have said I'm making this about me when it's Emily's big day. Others have called me selfish for causing drama. I am stuck. I want to support my sister and be there for her wedding, but I also don't know how I can face Jake in a joyful setting after everything. It's like reopening old wounds. I feel like my pain is being dismissed in favor of family harmony. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because she invited my ex-fiancé without telling me. AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her toxic boyfriend to our family Christmas after years of drama. So this is a long one, and honestly, I'm still torn about whether I'm the asshole here or not. I'm 32F, and I come from a family that's generally close-knit, but has had its share of drama over the years. My younger sister, 28F, has been dating the same guy, Jake, for about 3 years now. If you ask me, he's the source of almost every problem between us in recent years. But my family mostly just rolls their eyes and says to let her live her life. Here's the background. My sister and I have always been close, growing up in a pretty normal middle-class family. Our parents are good people, though they tend to avoid conflict and often downplay things to keep the peace. About 4 years ago, my sister started dating Jake. At first, he seemed fine, quiet, a bit reserved, maybe socially awkward. But within months, things started going downhill. Jake is, without exaggeration, one of the most controlling and manipulative people I've ever met. I saw it firsthand and warned my sister repeatedly, but she was head over heels and didn't want to hear it. The first big red flag for me was when he insisted she quit her part-time job because he didn't like her talking to other guys. My sister initially brushed it off as a quirk, but I could see she was already isolating herself. Over time, Jake became the center of her world. He micromanaged everything from her phone use to what she wore. He'd get jealous over innocent things and blow up. I remember one Christmas Eve where he started a huge fight because my sister laughed at a joke I made. He stormed out, leaving her crying. She confided in me later that night, but said she thought that was just how love is sometimes. I told her that was not love, but she seemed stuck. The rest of the family got involved, too. Our parents tried talking to Jake, who was rude and dismissive. My mom told me once she felt scared of him. I think they mostly tried to keep the peace by ignoring it or telling my sister to be patient. But the tension was palpable every holiday or family event. Fast forward 2 years. My sister finally started seeing a therapist and realized she was in a very toxic relationship. She tried to break up with Jake a couple of times, but would get manipulated back in with promises he'd change. He never did. By this point, the family was divided. Some, including my parents, wanted to support her no matter what. Others, like me, felt protective but frustrated because she kept going back. Now, here's where the real story starts. Last year, around November, my sister called me sobbing. Jake had gotten verbally abusive again, and she had finally packed a bag and moved back in with our parents. She was scared and wanted me to come over and talk to her. I stayed the night. We talked for hours, and I promised to support her through whatever came next. A few weeks later, the family started planning our annual Christmas dinner at my parents' house. Normally, everyone gets excited, but this year there was tension. My sister said Jake wanted to come. I lost it. I told her no way. After everything, I didn't want that toxic presence in our family space. She got really angry, accusing me of trying to control her and saying I was being selfish. Our parents were caught in the middle, unsure how to handle it. They said they didn't want to exclude Jake if she wanted to bring him, but I insisted it wasn't safe or fair to anyone who had witnessed his behavior. So I made a bold move. I told them if Jake was coming, I wouldn't be. I said Christmas with the family wasn't worth the emotional stress and the risk of conflict. My sister then sent me a message calling me immature and accusing me of trying to punish her for her choices. The day of Christmas arrived, and Jake showed up uninvited, despite my parents' hesitation. The atmosphere was tense. Jake immediately started passive-aggressive comments and tried to isolate my sister from the rest of us. I stayed in my room most of the evening, texting friends and avoiding the chaos. Eventually, the fight broke out. Jake confronted me about trying to break them up, and I told him to leave. He refused, saying he was family now. My parents were embarrassed and didn't want a scene, but after a shouting match, Jake stormed out. My sister was upset with me for escalating things. The aftermath was a mess. My sister and I barely spoke for weeks. Other family members took sides, some saying I was justified, others saying I should have been more accommodating. My parents just wanted everyone to make up and move on. It's been 6 months now. My sister is still with Jake, and the rest of the family has gone back to pretending everything is fine. I haven't been invited to any family gatherings, and honestly, I'm torn. On one hand, I want to protect myself and those I love from a toxic person. On the other, I hate losing my sister over this. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her toxic boyfriend to Christmas, and for standing my ground, even though it fractured the family? Or should I have swallowed my pride and try to keep the peace, even if it meant enduring Jake's presence? AITA for refusing to give my sister my wedding dress after she pressured me for months? This has been a huge source of tension in my family lately, and I'm honestly still trying to process everything that happened. I'm 28F, recently married, and the whole experience has been stressful enough without adding family drama on top. But here we are. So a bit of background. I come from a pretty close-knit family, but my sister, 26F, and I have always had a complicated relationship. We love each other, but we're also very different people with different values and ways of handling things. I've been engaged for about a year and a half before the wedding, and throughout that time, my sister has been insistent, to say the least, about my wedding dress. To be clear, I don't have a super extravagant dress or anything. I bought one that I loved and felt comfortable in, which was honestly the most important thing to me. It wasn't super expensive, but it was special to me. After the wedding, I planned to keep it in my closet as a keepsake. Here's where the problem started. Ever since I announced my engagement, my sister kept bringing up how she wished she could have my dress after the wedding. At first, I just brushed it off. I figured it was harmless, maybe just her way of expressing excitement or wanting to be close to the event. But it didn't stop there. Over the months leading up to the wedding, she would bring it up almost every time we spoke or saw each other. "Are you sure you won't want me to have your dress? It would look amazing on me," she said more times than I can count. I tried to explain that it wasn't something I was comfortable with. The dress was a very personal thing for me. It was a symbol of my relationship and my special day. I didn't want to give it away, especially not to someone who hadn't even been married yet. She got increasingly insistent. She told me that since she was younger and still unmarried, she needed the dress more than I did. She argued that I could always buy a new dress or didn't really need it, but she wanted it because it was family and would be meaningful to her. When I said no, she accused me of being selfish and not sharing important family memories. She said it was just a dress, and I was being dramatic. I tried to explain that my wedding dress wasn't just a piece of clothing to me. It was something I wanted to keep as a memory of one of the most important days of my life. I wasn't trying to hurt her or exclude her. I just felt it was mine, and I wanted to keep it. The situation came to a head after the wedding. I had a small post-wedding family get-together, and she brought up the dress again in front of everyone, asking if I'd reconsider now that the wedding was over. I told her firmly that the answer was still no, and I asked her to respect my feelings and my boundaries. She got upset and stormed out, telling me that I was ruining our relationship over something stupid. Since then, the atmosphere between us has been cold and awkward. My parents have been caught in the middle, trying to mediate and tell us to just get over it, which has only made me more frustrated. I'm wondering if I'm being unreasonable for refusing to give her the dress. She's my sister, and I understand that she wanted something meaningful, but it feels wrong to give up something so personal just because she asked. AITA for not giving my sister my wedding dress after she pressured me for months? AITA for refusing to invite my sister to my wedding because of her toxic behavior? I, 28F, have been planning my wedding for over a year now, and it's been an emotional roller coaster. I'm marrying my fiancée, 30M, and we're both excited to celebrate this huge step in our lives. But the one major issue looming over all the excitement is my sister, Emma, 26F. I'm at a crossroads, and I honestly don't know if I'm being unreasonable or if I'm justified in how I've handled things. To give some background, Emma and I have always had a complicated relationship. We grew up in the same household, but she was always jealous and competitive with me. It was subtle at first, like always trying to one-up me on grades or social events. But over time it escalated. In college, things got worse when she started making passive-aggressive comments about my achievements and life choices. When I started dating my fiancé, she was unusually critical. She called him boring and too safe and said he wasn't good enough for me. At first, I tried to brush it off as jealousy, but it became a pattern whenever we interacted. She also frequently dismissed my feelings and opinions, making me feel like I couldn't be myself around her. Fast forward to the engagement. When I told my family, including Emma, about the engagement, she barely congratulated me and immediately started talking about her own plans to move to another city for work. It felt like she wanted to overshadow my news. During the early wedding planning stages, I tried to include her, thinking maybe things could improve, but she was unhelpful and often complained about the choices I was making. The last straw happened about 3 months ago during my bridal shower. Emma was invited, and I expected some support from her, or at least for her to put on a friendly face. Instead, she spent the entire event making snide remarks about the decorations, the guest list, and even the food. She kept telling other guests how the wedding was going to be a disaster, and even said she hoped I'd reconsider the whole thing because it was too much. I confronted her about it privately, and she accused me of being too sensitive and ruining the fun. After that, I decided to limit my contact with her. I cut back on sharing details about the wedding and asked my parents not to pressure me about including Emma in every single part of the planning. But even with the limited contact, I kept hoping she would come around. Last week, I finalized the guest list, and after a lot of thought, I decided not to invite Emma. It was a difficult decision because, yes, she is my sister and I want family there. But I couldn't imagine celebrating my happiest day with someone who would bring negativity and drama. I told my fiancé about my decision, and he supported me 100%. When I informed my parents, they were shocked. They said I was being unfair and cruel to Emma, and that she should be included regardless of her behavior, because she's family. They warned me this decision could create a permanent rift. I tried explaining how her behavior has affected me and how I want my wedding day to be positive and supportive, but they weren't convinced. Emma found out about not being invited through a family member. My parents slipped up, and she exploded. She sent me a barrage of messages calling me selfish, heartless, and said she never wants to speak to me again. She also posted passive-aggressive comments on social media about how family doesn't always mean love. Now, the family is split. Some say I'm justified. Others say I'm overreacting and ruining what should be a happy occasion. My fiancé and I are standing firm, but I'm torn because I don't want to lose my sister, even if she's difficult. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to invite my sister to my wedding because of her toxic behavior? Should I just suck it up and include her for the sake of family? Or am I right to protect my own happiness on my special day? AITA for refusing to apologize to my sister for telling her fiancé the truth about her behavior? This has been weighing on me for months now, and honestly, I'm torn about whether I'm in the wrong or not. Here's the whole story. My sister, let's call her Emily, has always been the golden child in our family. She's charming, outgoing, and has a way of making people like her instantly. I'm the older sibling, more reserved, and I've always felt a little overshadowed by her. It's nothing huge, just that my parents have always put her on a pedestal, and I often felt overlooked. Emily started dating a guy named Ryan about 2 years ago. He's a nice enough guy, quiet, somewhat introverted, and very patient. From what I saw, Ryan seemed a bit intimidated by Emily's personality, but he genuinely seemed to care for her. I liked him initially and wanted to support their relationship. But over time, I started noticing some things that really bothered me. Emily's behavior around Ryan wasn't always kind. She would often dismiss his opinions in conversations, make subtle but cutting remarks about his interests, and sometimes even belittle him in front of mutual friends. At first, I thought maybe I was reading too much into it or that Emily was just being playful, but it became more and more apparent that she didn't respect Ryan the way he deserved. What pushed me over the edge was a party we had a few months ago at our parents' house. Ryan had just gotten a promotion at work and was excited to share the news. But Emily, instead of celebrating with him, spent the entire evening complaining about how his new job meant he'd be busier and less available to her. She even went so far as to say, "I don't know if I'm ready to deal with all the stress of his career right now." It was humiliating for Ryan, who looked genuinely hurt. After the party, Ryan confided in me. He said he felt like Emily didn't respect him and that her behavior was wearing him down. He asked me if I thought she was being unfair. I didn't want to betray my sister, but I also felt like Ryan deserved honesty. So, I told him what I had been observing, that Emily often dismissed him and wasn't treating him with the respect a partner deserves. Ryan was grateful to hear the truth from someone outside their relationship. He started standing up to Emily more, setting boundaries that he hadn't before. I thought things would get better, but they actually got worse between Emily and me. She found out I'd talked to Ryan and was furious. She accused me of meddling, betraying her trust, and trying to sabotage their relationship. Our parents also got involved. They sided with Emily, saying I should have kept my mouth shut and respected her privacy. They insisted that Ryan should be the one to confront Emily if there was a problem and that I was overstepping my boundaries. Emily demanded I apologize to both her and Ryan for causing drama. I refused to apologize. I felt like I had done the right thing by being honest with Ryan, especially since it seemed like no one else was willing to address the problem. Emily has been giving me the cold shoulder ever since, and our family gatherings are awkward. My parents have stopped inviting me to some events, and even mutual friends have asked me to just let it go. Here's what's making me question myself. Am I really the asshole for telling Ryan the truth about Emily's behavior? Should I have stayed silent, even though I knew Ryan was hurting? Or was I justified in speaking up to protect someone who might be getting emotionally mistreated? I want to be clear that I don't want to destroy their relationship or come between them. I was hoping that my honesty would help Ryan gain confidence and maybe encourage Emily to reflect on her behavior. But instead, I feel like I'm the villain now. So, Reddit, AITA, for refusing to apologize to my sister for telling her fiancé the truth about her behavior. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she excluded me from the bridal party. And now the whole family is against me? This whole situation has been brewing for a while, and I honestly don't know if I'm the asshole here or if my family is overreacting. I, 28F, have a sister, Emily, 30F, who is getting married in a few months. We've always had a complicated relationship, sometimes close, sometimes distant, but I've always tried to support her. The problem started when she announced her engagement and began planning the wedding. Emily told me early on that she wanted only a few people in her bridal party, mainly her closest friends from college and her fiancé's family members. I didn't push to be a bridesmaid because I knew the group was small, but I expected to be included in some way, maybe as a reader during the ceremony, or helping with planning, or something that made me feel part of this huge moment in her life. Instead, Emily barely spoke to me during the entire planning process. She would share updates with our parents and some mutual friends, but avoided telling me any details. I found out through other people that she had specifically asked them not to tell me about certain events, like dress fittings or the bridal shower. The breaking point came about 2 months ago when the bridal shower invitation went out. I didn't get invited. When I asked her about it, she said it was a small gathering for only the closest people, and that she didn't want to make a big deal out of it. I was hurt, but didn't say much because I didn't want to cause drama. Then, last month, she had a bachelorette party that I also wasn't invited to. At this point, I started to feel really alienated. I called her to ask if everything was okay between us, and she said she was just focusing on people who she felt closest to and that she didn't think I was really involved in her life lately. I was shocked because I had been reaching out, trying to connect, but apparently it wasn't enough. I decided to confront her more seriously. I told her that it hurt to be excluded and that I wanted to be part of her big day in some meaningful way. She told me flat out that she had made her choices and that I wasn't going to be part of the wedding party or any pre-wedding events. She said she wanted the wedding to feel like a fresh start with her fiancé's family and closest friends, and that our relationship was complicated enough without me involved. I was crushed, but I decided not to attend the bridal shower or the bachelorette party since I wasn't invited. When the wedding day came closer, I told her I would attend the ceremony and reception, but wouldn't be involved in any other events. That's when things got worse. Our parents started pressuring me, saying I should put aside my feelings and just support Emily no matter what. They said I was being selfish and making things about myself instead of celebrating my sister's happiness. Even some extended family members messaged me, accusing me of causing unnecessary tension and making the family look bad. The day before the wedding, Emily sent me a message saying she had decided it would be better if I didn't come to the wedding at all. She said it was too stressful for her and that my presence might cause drama. I told her I didn't want to make things worse, but I was hurt and wanted to support her, even if we weren't close. Emily's fiancé also got involved, messaging me to say it was for the best that I stayed away. The rest of the family doubled down, telling me that if I cared about Emily, I would respect her wishes and stay home. Now I'm caught in the middle of a huge family conflict. I didn't want to make waves, but I also don't want to be completely erased from my sister's life. I've told everyone I'm sorry for how things have turned out and that I'm willing to talk and try to rebuild, but no one seems interested. So AITA for refusing to stay home on my sister's wedding day because I wasn't included in the bridal party and was excluded from pre-wedding events? Or am I justified in feeling hurt and wanting to be part of one of the biggest moments of her life? I'm open to any perspective because, honestly, I'm so lost in this whole mess. Hey friends, if you enjoy this content, Don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. AITA for telling my sister she can't bring her boyfriend to our family Christmas dinner after what he did last year. I, 33F, have always been pretty close with my sister, 29F. We grew up in a pretty tight-knit family, and every year, Christmas dinner is a big deal for us. We usually rotate houses, but this year it's at my place, which means I'm in charge of organizing everything, from the food to the seating arrangements. Normally, it's a pretty stress-free event, but last year something happened that's made me rethink who I want to invite moving forward. So, a little background. My sister started dating this guy. Let's call him Jake about a year and a half ago. At first, I thought he was fine, seemed polite enough, a little quiet, but nothing too weird. But things changed at last year's Christmas dinner, and it wasn't a great look for him. Last Christmas, the whole family gathered at my parents' house. It was a big group, around 15 people, including cousins and grandparents. Jake had been invited because my sister brought him along. The night started off fine. We had drinks, played some games, and ate a lot of food. But then, after dinner, when everyone was chilling in the living room, things took a turn. My dad has some old family photos displayed around the house, including one of our late grandmother that means a lot to all of us. Jake, who had been drinking more than anyone else, started making loud jokes about how old people's photos are creepy, and then proceeded to mock our grandma in a way that was honestly disrespectful and weird. At first, we all laughed nervously, thinking he was joking, but he kept going, getting louder and more inappropriate. My mom was visibly upset, and my sister just looked uncomfortable. I tried to change the subject and asked him to stop, but he brushed me off, saying I was too sensitive. Then he made some snarky remarks about how Christmas is just a commercial holiday and how people get too sentimental over nothing. At this point, my cousin tried to intervene, reminding him it wasn't the time or place, and Jake just rolled his eyes and left the room. Later, my sister told me that Jake said some stuff about how he hates family gatherings and thinks they're all fake. Honestly, I get that not everyone loves big family dinners, but to disrespect people, especially my grandma's memory, felt completely out of line. Everyone else was trying to keep the night pleasant, and Jake was basically ruining it. It didn't end there. When it was time to open presents, Jake took a gift that wasn't meant for him, my dad's vintage whiskey, and opened it right in front of everyone, spilling a little and making a mess. My dad was pissed, and the mood dropped even more. Jake didn't apologize. Instead, he laughed it off and said, "It's just booze, chill out." That was the last straw for me. After dinner, I pulled my sister aside and told her that Jake's behavior was unacceptable and that if he came again this year, I would seriously reconsider whether I wanted to invite him or even have her bring him. I tried to be diplomatic, but I was firm about how disrespectful and disruptive he was. Fast forward to now, my sister keeps texting me, saying I'm being over the top and too controlling by saying Jake can't come. She insists he's changed and that I'm just holding a grudge. She even threatened not to come if Jake isn't invited. I told her I love her, but this is my house and my Christmas dinner, and I'm not putting up with that kind of behavior again. Some family members have weighed in. My mom and dad sided with me, saying Jake's behavior was disrespectful and it's reasonable to ask him not to come. But some cousins think I'm being harsh and that everyone deserves a second chance, especially since it's the holidays. So, Reddit, am I the asshole for telling my sister Jake can't come to our family Christmas dinner after what happened last year? I want the night to be peaceful and respectful, and I'm worried Jake will ruin it again, but I also don't want to cause a big family rift. What do you think? AITA for refusing to host my sister's wedding at my house after she threw a huge tantrum over my unreasonable conditions? So, this all started about 6 months ago when my sister, let's call her Emma, got engaged to her boyfriend, Mark. Emma and I have always had a somewhat strained relationship. Not outright hostile, but we don't exactly see eye to eye on much, and she's known for being very dramatic and high maintenance. I'm 32, she's 29, and we live in different states, so we don't interact daily, but family events usually bring out some tension. Emma asked if she could host her wedding at my house. I live in a spacious, 2-story home with a large backyard that can accommodate around 100 people, which seemed like a perfect venue for a small to medium wedding. My husband and I have thrown several parties here before without issues, and I was initially happy to help her out since weddings can be expensive, and I wanted to be supportive. However, I told her up front that there would be some conditions for using my house, mainly because I wanted to protect my property and minimize any stress or damage. Here's what I asked. No alcohol beyond moderate consumption. I have had bad experiences with wild parties, and my neighbors have complained in the past about noise and drunkenness, so I wanted to keep it low-key and responsible. No late-night noise. I have a 7-year-old son who goes to bed early, so the party would have to be wrapped up by 10 p.m. No open flames or fireworks in the backyard due to fire hazards. My husband and I would be the only ones coordinating with vendors and guests on the day of the wedding to keep things organized. No more than 80 guests to keep the event manageable. I thought these conditions were reasonable since it's my house and I was doing a big favor. When I told Emma, she completely lost it. She said I was being controlling and that I was ruining her dream wedding by imposing stupid restrictions. She said it was her wedding and she should be able to do whatever she wanted. She accused me of being selfish and not supportive, and she threatened to call off the entire wedding if I didn't let her have it her way. She also said that asking her to limit alcohol was ridiculous because weddings are supposed to be celebrations with drinks and dancing. I tried explaining my reasons again calmly, but she would not listen. She even went as far as telling other family members that I was being a bridezilla and making it all about myself, which made me feel terrible because I never wanted to cause drama. After multiple arguments, I finally told Emma I couldn't host the wedding if she wasn't willing to compromise on these conditions. I suggested she find a venue that could better accommodate her vision. That's when things escalated. Emma started calling me names, posting passive-aggressive comments on social media, and ignoring my calls. My parents tried to mediate, but Emma refused to budge and insisted I was the one in the wrong. Fast forward to last week. Emma got married at a banquet hall several states away. She had over 150 guests, a bar that served unlimited alcohol, loud music until midnight, and a huge fireworks display outside. A few days later, I got texts from some mutual family members telling me about how the wedding was wild and out of control. Emma even posted videos of guests getting drunk and dancing wildly on social media. Meanwhile, my husband and I are relieved that we didn't host the event. But here's the kicker. Emma's now guilt-tripping me because she had to pay a fortune for a venue because I refused to help her, and she keeps saying I'm a terrible sister who only cares about herself. She's blocked me on social media and won't answer my messages. I feel like I set reasonable boundaries to protect my home and family and try to be helpful within my limits. But Emma refuses to see it that way and has turned this into a full-blown family feud. So, Reddit, am I the asshole for refusing to host my sister's wedding on my terms, even though she needed a venue? Or was I justified in setting boundaries for my property? What would you have done in my situation? AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé stay in my house after she ghosted me for months? This whole situation has been a nightmare, and I honestly don't know if I'm the asshole here or not. I've been debating posting this for weeks because it's complicated, but here goes. I, 29F, have a younger sister, Emily, 26F. We were close growing up, but drifted apart a little over the past few years, mostly because she started hanging out with a new group of friends and then met her fiancé, Jake, 30M. I'll come back to him in a minute. Emily and I had some rough patches, but I've always tried to be there for her when she needed me. Last year, Emily got engaged to Jake, who seemed like a decent guy at first. I met him a few times and got along well enough, though I always felt like Emily was a bit distant with me after they got serious. I chalked it up to her being busy with wedding plans. About 6 months ago, Emily and I had a big fight. It started over something stupid. A missed birthday, really, but it escalated because she accused me of being unsupportive of her relationship with Jake. I tried to explain I wasn't trying to be unsupportive, I just didn't want to get too involved in their relationship issues. But Emily blew up and said I was always judgmental and that she didn't need me in her life if I was going to be that way. After that, she basically ghosted me. No calls, no texts, no responses to my messages. I reached out multiple times, trying to smooth things over, but nothing. It felt like she completely cut me out. Fast forward to last week. I got a text from Jake, Emily's fiancé, but he didn't identify himself at first. He said something like, "Hey, it's Jake. I know you and Emily have had some issues, but she's in a tough spot right now and could really use a place to stay for a few days." I was surprised because I hadn't spoken to Jake in months either. Apparently, Emily's apartment got flooded, something about a burst pipe, and she was temporarily homeless. Jake said Emily was out of town for work, but wanted me to help her out since she didn't have anywhere to go. He asked if she could crash at my place for a week or so. I was stunned. First, I was angry that Emily hadn't even told me herself. Instead, she sent her fiancé to ask me, and after months of silence. Second, I wasn't sure if this was some kind of test or if Jake was trying to manipulate me. I told Jake I needed to think about it and asked some questions. Why didn't Emily ask me directly? Why didn't she tell me she was homeless? Jake said Emily was embarrassed and didn't want to bother me, but she really needed help. I debated it. On one hand, she's family, and it seemed like a genuine emergency. On the other, she ghosted me for half a year, and I wasn't sure I wanted to open that door again so suddenly. I told Jake I wasn't comfortable having Emily stay at my place because I felt hurt and disrespected by her sudden silence and the way she left me out of the loop. I also mentioned I have a small apartment, and sharing space with someone I haven't spoken to in months would be awkward. Jake tried to convince me, saying Emily just needed a safe place for a few days, and he promised it would be temporary. He also said Emily missed me and wanted to make things right. Still, I stood my ground. Jake then told me Emily was considering crashing at a friend's house, but that wasn't ideal because they had a newborn and limited space. A few days later, Emily herself reached out to me, finally. She apologized for ghosting me and said she was sorry for the way things ended between us. She said she had felt overwhelmed and needed space, but now wanted to reconnect. She asked if I would reconsider letting her stay at my place. I told her I appreciated the apology and wanted to move forward, but I wasn't sure about having her stay in my small apartment under these circumstances. I suggested she look for a short-term Airbnb or maybe stay with Jake if possible. Emily got upset and accused me of being petty and unforgiving. She said family should be there for each other no matter what. Then she asked why I didn't trust her or Jake enough to help them in a time of need. I explained my feelings, the ghosting hurt, the fact that I had to hear about this from Jake and not her, and that I just needed time to process everything. She said if I didn't let her stay, it meant I didn't care about our relationship or family. Since then, Emily and I have barely spoken. Jake sent a few more messages insisting that I should do the right thing, but I haven't responded. Some mutual friends have told me I'm being unreasonable and should just let her stay for a week to help out family. Others say I have every right to protect my boundaries. So, AITA for refusing to let my sister stay with me after she ghosted me for months and asked her fiancé to do instead? Was I too harsh for wanting her to find alternative accommodations rather than crashing at my apartment? Or should I have swallowed my pride for the sake of family? AITA for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend stay at my house after he caused a huge scene and insulted my family during a visit? So, here's the backstory. I, 28F, have a younger sister, Emma, 24F, who has always been a bit wild but has been trying to turn her life around recently. She's been dating this guy, Jake, 27M, for about 6 months. At first, I was cautiously optimistic because Emma seemed really happy and he seemed nice enough over the phone. However, I'd never met him in person until last weekend. A little context about me and my family. I'm very close with my parents and my younger brother, and we all live within a few miles of each other. I'm married to my husband, Matt, and we have a toddler. We live in a modest but comfortable home. We're all pretty low-key and keep family gatherings peaceful and drama-free. Emma and Jake have been wanting to visit us for a while, but Jake's schedule kept making it difficult. Finally, last weekend, they both planned to come over for dinner. I made it very clear that this was going to be a casual and family-oriented evening, and I expected everyone to behave respectfully, especially Jake since it was his first time meeting most of us. The day of the visit, Emma and Jake arrived on time. At first, everything was normal. Jake was polite, chatting with my parents, and Emma seemed happy. But things started to go downhill pretty quickly. During dinner, Jake made a few snide comments about my career choice, which is teaching. He said it was just a dead-end job, and implied that I should aim higher if I want a real life. I brushed it off, thinking maybe he was just trying to make conversation, but it felt awkward. Then he started making passive-aggressive remarks about my husband. He said Matt's job was boring and that he didn't see why anyone would be satisfied with it. Matt just smiled politely and didn't engage. My parents noticed, but tried to keep the mood light. After dinner, we all moved to the living room. That's when things got really uncomfortable. Jake started complaining about how small and cluttered my house was, saying it was surprising how people settle for less. I told him it wasn't an appropriate thing to say and that everyone's living situation is different. Emma suddenly defended him, saying he was just joking and that I was being too sensitive. I told Emma it wasn't about being sensitive, it was about basic respect. She shrugged it off, which hurt more than the comments themselves. Then, Jake took it a step further. He criticized my parents' lifestyle, saying they settled too early and should have done more with their lives. At that point, my mom got visibly upset and told him to stop. I asked Jake to leave. I said this wasn't the environment for him to be so disrespectful and that if he wanted to be part of the family, he needed to start showing some basic manners. Emma got mad at me for embarrassing Jake and told me I was ruining her relationship. Jake left, but Emma stayed and continued to argue that I was overreacting and hostile towards her boyfriend. She said I should have just let things slide and that family meant accepting people as they are. I told her family also means respecting each other, and if Jake can't do that, then maybe he's not the right fit. Since then, Emma has been distant and hasn't spoken much to me. She's still dating Jake, and they apparently visited my parents later in the week, where Jake was polite and charming, according to them. My husband and I talked about everything and agreed we did the right thing. But now I'm wondering if I was really the asshole for kicking Jake out and standing up for my family's dignity. Emma thinks I should have been more welcoming and given Jake a chance. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend stay at my house after he insulted my family and caused a scene? Or should I have just taken the high road and let it slide for the sake of keeping peace? AITA for refusing to invite my sister to my wedding after she borrowed a huge chunk of money from me and then ignored all my attempts to get it back? So, this is a long story, but I'll try to keep it clear. I, 29F, have been planning my wedding for about a year now. I'm engaged to my fiancée, 32M, and we've saved up for a while to pay for everything ourselves. We didn't want to put anyone in a tough spot, and both our families have been pretty supportive of us doing our own thing. That said, I always wanted my sister, 27F, to be there because she and I have always been close, or so I thought. The problem started last year, about 8 months before I got engaged. My sister was going through a rough patch financially. She lost her job, and her relationship ended badly, leaving her pretty much broke. She came to me asking if I could help her out with some rent money, because she was about to be evicted. I was hesitant at first because, honestly, I don't like lending money. It always complicates relationships. But given the circumstances, I figured I could help her. I lent her $5,000. Yes, that's a lot, but it was the only way I could be sure she wouldn't be homeless. She promised to pay me back as soon as she got on her feet. I made it clear it was a loan, not a gift, and I expected her to honor that. She thanked me profusely and promised she'd start repaying as soon as she could. Fast forward 6 months, and she hadn't paid me back a dime. I reached out gently a few times, reminding her about the loan, and she kept making excuses. New bills, car repairs, job hunting. She said she was struggling but would pay me back soon. I kept being patient, thinking she just needed time to stabilize. Then about 2 months ago, I realized she'd been using the money for other things. She took a last-minute trip to visit friends across the country, went out to expensive dinners, and even bought a new phone. This wasn't what I expected. When I confronted her, she got defensive and said I was being controlling and that she didn't owe me anything because I was family and should just help her out. She said that if I truly loved her, I wouldn't be so obsessed with money. I was stunned. I reminded her again that this was a loan, not a gift, and I'd given her clear terms from the start. She stopped replying my messages altogether. Things were tense for a while, but I tried to keep things civil because, well, she is my sister. Now here's where it gets worse. When I got engaged, I was thrilled to tell her, and ask her to be part of my big day. I invited her over to talk about the wedding and mentioned how much it would mean to me to have her involved, especially after everything we'd been through. Her response? She ignored the invitation completely. I tried reaching out several times, texts, calls, even messages through other family members. Nothing. When I finally ran into her at a family gathering and asked why she wasn't responding, she said she wasn't interested in the wedding or being involved because I was treating her like a bank. I told her I wasn't going to keep inviting her to events or asking her to be part of my life if she wasn't going to respect me or repay what she owed. I felt hurt, but I also felt I had to set boundaries. Our parents tried to mediate, saying I should just forgive and forget, and that family means more than money. But I told them it's not about the money as much as it's about respect and trust. She took advantage of me and then acted like it was my fault for holding her accountable. Now, my fiancé and I have decided to cut her out of the wedding. We aren't inviting her or any of her friends, and we're keeping the guest list tight to people who have supported us and been trustworthy. My parents think I'm being harsh and say I should try to patch things up for the sake of family. My friends say I'm justified because she broke my trust in a big way. I'm torn because I do love my sister, but I feel like I have to protect myself and my relationship. Am I the asshole for refusing to invite her to my wedding after everything? Or should I swallow my pride and include her for family's sake? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after what she did to my fiancé? This is a long one, and honestly, I'm still pretty shaken by everything that's happened. I'm hoping to get some perspective because right now, I'm not sure if I'm the asshole or if my sister crossed a serious line. A bit of background. I, 28F, have always been close to my sister, 32F, but lately, things have been tense. We've always had the typical sibling rivalry stuff growing up, but nothing major. She's always been a little more dominant and controlling, but I brushed it off because, well, she's my sister. About 2 years ago, I got engaged to my fiancé, Mark, 30M. Mark is amazing, kind, thoughtful, and the kind of guy who makes me laugh until I cry. My sister met him before we got engaged, and while they weren't super close, I thought they got along fine. They never seemed to have any major issues. Fast forward to about 6 months ago, my sister announced she was engaged too. Her fiancé, David, is a really charismatic guy, but also quite opinionated. She immediately started talking about their wedding plans and how perfect it had to be. It seemed like she wanted the whole world to revolve around her big day. Around this time, I started noticing little weird things happening around my own wedding plans. Invitations would get mixed up, Mark's name would be misspelled on RSVPs, or important details like venue times would be accidentally changed. At first, I thought I was just being paranoid or that these were innocent mistakes. Then, about 2 months ago, I found out through a mutual friend that my sister had been bad-mouthing Mark to her circle, saying things like he wasn't good enough for me, that he was boring and too quiet, and that I could do better. The kicker? She'd even hinted to David that she hoped our weddings would happen on different dates because she didn't want to share the spotlight. I confronted my sister about this. I told her what I heard and asked her why she'd do something like that. She laughed it off, saying she was just joking and that she didn't mean anything by it. She told me I was overreacting and that I should just focus on my own wedding. I left that conversation feeling hurt, but still hopeful maybe we could move past it. A couple of weeks later, I got an invitation to her bridal shower. When I showed up, I realized something was off. The guest list was full of people I barely knew, and Mark wasn't invited at all. When I asked her about it, she said that it was a girls-only event, which might be true in some cases, but the way she excluded Mark felt intentional and spiteful. Things came to a head last weekend. Mark and I had a small bachelor and bachelorette party planned separately with our friends. I was excited to celebrate before the wedding chaos really kicked in. The night before my bachelorette, my sister showed up uninvited to my place. She was drunk and started causing a scene, accusing me of trying to steal attention from her wedding and making everything about me. She then dropped a bombshell. She told me she'd spoken to my parents and convinced them not to attend my wedding because they wanted to support her special day. This was the first I heard of this, and it crushed me. My parents have always been supportive of both of us, and I couldn't believe she would manipulate them like that. I told her to leave, and after a lot of yelling, she finally did. Mark was furious and wanted me to confront her publicly, but I just wanted to focus on my own happiness. So now, my wedding is in 2 weeks, and my sister has officially RSVP'd yes. But I can't shake the feeling that she's only coming to cause drama or to overshadow me. I've told her multiple times that if she keeps up this behavior, I might reconsider her being part of the day. She's responded by saying that I'm being dramatic and petty, and that I'm trying to ruin her wedding too. My parents are in the middle of all this, guilt-tripping me about keeping the family together, and honestly, I'm exhausted. Mark wants me to stand my ground, and even suggested we could have a private ceremony without her if things get worse. But I feel guilty about excluding my own sister. So AITA for refusing to attend her wedding if she continues with this behavior? Or am I wrong to expect her to respect my fiancé and my special day? I'm lost and need honest opinions. AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé stay at my house after what he did to my dog. So this is going to be a long one because there are a lot of moving pieces, but I'm trying to be as clear and detailed as possible. I, 29F, live in a medium-sized city and have a pretty cozy apartment that I absolutely love. I live alone with my dog, Max, a 4-year-old golden retriever who is basically my child. Max is incredibly well-trained, gentle, and overall a huge part of my life. I've had him since he was a puppy, and I'm very protective of him. My sister, Sarah, 27F, has been dating this guy, Dan, 30M, for about 1.5 years. Sarah and Dan are engaged, and she's been very excited about their wedding, planning, etc. Dan seemed fine when we first met him, and I was cautiously optimistic since my sister tends to jump headfirst into things sometimes. Here's where things get complicated. About 2 months ago, Sarah and Dan asked if Dan could stay with me for a couple of nights. They were coming into town for a work event and some wedding planning stuff, and apparently, the hotel they wanted was either booked or too expensive. Sarah mentioned that Dan would just be crashing on my couch and that it wouldn't be a big deal. I was a little hesitant, but didn't want to be the bad sister, so I said okay. I told Sarah that the only real rule was that Dan needed to be respectful of Max. I specifically said no roughhousing, no feeding him anything weird, and no leaving him alone with Dan unsupervised since Max can be skittish around strangers at first. Dan arrives, and for the first day or so, things seem okay. But then I notice Max acting weird. He's more anxious, not eating well, and generally unsettled. Max is normally a happy, confident dog, so this was unusual. One afternoon, I walked in from work to find Dan sitting on the floor, playing with Max in a way that made me uncomfortable. He was grabbing Max's ears pretty hard, and when Max tried to pull away, Dan tightened his grip and laughed it off like it was a joke. I immediately told Dan to stop and reminded him to be gentle. That night, Max started vomiting and was very lethargic. I took him to the vet the next morning, and the vet said Max had likely eaten something he shouldn't have and was dehydrated. The vet also mentioned that Max's ears looked irritated and had some scratches, probably from rough handling. I confronted Dan and Sarah about it. Sarah seemed dismissive, saying Max was just a dog and that Dan didn't mean any harm. Dan apologized but also downplayed it, saying Max was overreacting and that he was just trying to bond with the dog. I was furious. I told Sarah that I didn't want Dan staying at my place anymore, and that if he wanted to visit, it had to be somewhere else or a hotel. Sarah got really defensive and said I was overreacting and that Dan was family now, so I needed to get over it. Fast forward a few weeks, and Sarah sends me a message saying Dan might need to stay at my place again because their apartment is getting fumigated. I said no. She tried to guilt-trip me, saying she didn't want to inconvenience me, but I stood my ground. Now, Sarah is barely speaking to me, and our family is split because some people say I'm right to protect my dog, and others think I'm being unreasonable and making family drama. Am I the asshole for refusing to let Dan stay at my place after what he did to Max? I want to keep the peace, but I also can't put my dog in a situation where he's uncomfortable or hurt. Thanks for reading. AITA for refusing to let my sister's wedding party with the dresses I picked out? This is going to be long because there's a lot of background, but I'll try to keep it clear. I, 28F, have a younger sister, Emily, 24F, who's getting married in 6 months. We've always had a complicated relationship. We're close in some ways, but also very different people with different tastes and values. Growing up, I was the responsible, planner type, and Emily was the more spontaneous, free-spirited one. We clashed often, but we've managed to maintain a decent relationship as adults. When Emily got engaged, I was genuinely happy for her. I've always wanted to be involved in her wedding and support her. She asked me to be her maid of honor, which I accepted enthusiastically. Early on, she mentioned that she wanted a small, simple wedding, nothing too fancy, and she wanted it to be fun and relaxed. I thought that sounded great. A couple of months ago, Emily and I started talking about the bridesmaids' dresses. I volunteered to help pick them out since I have experience in event planning and fashion. Emily agreed, but said she wanted the dresses to be affordable and not too formal. I promised to find something stylish, but simple that would suit everyone. After some searching, I found a dress style that I thought fit the bill perfectly. It was a knee-length, flowy dress in a pastel shade that Emily liked. It was affordable, flattering on different body types, and had good reviews for comfort. I sent photos to Emily and the bridesmaids, and everyone seemed to like the idea. Then, Emily started getting cold feet about the dresses. She said she didn't want the bridesmaids to wear matching dresses because she thought it would look too coordinated and boring. She suggested instead that everyone pick their own dress in the same color family, but different styles. I told her that would be fine, but it might look a bit messy in photos and on video. She didn't seem convinced and said she wanted freedom for her friends. This was when I started to notice a shift in how involved Emily wanted me to be. She seemed to want to take control of the wedding planning herself, even though she'd asked me to help. I didn't push the issue and agreed to the new idea, although I was a bit disappointed. Fast forward a few weeks, Emily sent me links to dresses her bridesmaids were picking. Some were fancy, some were casual, some were even different colors. I was worried this would look chaotic and uncoordinated. I gently suggested maybe they could at least agree on the exact shade of color to avoid clashing. Emily dismissed it, saying it was too controlling and that she wanted everyone to feel comfortable. Then, about 2 weeks ago, Emily announced at a family dinner that she wanted me to pay for the dresses if I wanted the bridesmaids to look coordinated. She said she didn't want to argue about dress choices anymore and thought it was fair that since I was so obsessed with the dresses, I should cover the cost. I was stunned. I told her that was unreasonable and hurtful. I was happy to help with ideas and planning, but I wasn't going to pay hundreds of dollars for everyone's dresses. Emily got defensive and accused me of trying to control the wedding and ruining her special day. Our mom tried to mediate, but Emily was firm about her stance. She said she would tell the bridesmaids to pick whatever they wanted and that she would handle it herself from now on. I felt hurt and excluded. I've always tried to support Emily, but now it feels like she doesn't appreciate my help and sees me as a control freak. I've been holding back from telling the bridesmaids about the dress drama because I don't want to cause more stress. Yesterday, I sent Emily a message telling her that if she doesn't want my help or input, that's fine, but I won't be responsible for the dresses or anything else anymore. I also said I wouldn't be in the wedding party if it's going to cause this much tension. Emily replied, saying I was being dramatic and selfish, that this was her day and she'd handle it her way. She also said that if I pulled out, that was on me, and she wouldn't try to stop me. Now I'm confused and upset. I want to be there for my sister on her big day, but I don't want to be made to feel like the bad guy for trying to help. Was I really being controlling or unreasonable about the dresses? AITA for refusing to pay for the bridesmaids' dresses or for threatening to step down from the wedding party. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos also. Leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.